Be here for this special occasion for Rosie and Tony. Today I had a million emotions, and I was at the house. I walked in, and I was literally saw my daughter and cried. So, all that aside, the girl that was doing the makeup, it looked like a Hollywood set. It was unbelievable, and they said. She said, Mr. Alagana, she says, look, me and my husband, we always think of something funny when we're going to cry, so we don't cry. And I said, what's that? She says, well, my husband was out walking one day, and a pigeon pooped on him. So every time we go to a very sad service or something, we say, pigeon poop. And honestly, to do the pictures, and then the cameraman said, look into her eyes. I said, we both look at each other, we both say pigeon poop. And it really worked. When we went to church, we walked into church, we walked up the aisle. We did the pigeon poop stuff all the way up the aisle, about halfway, and I lost it, though it didn't work. And I started crying. But today's about Rosie and Tony. You know, I get blamed for a lot of stuff in my life. I really do. It's not bullshit. I get blamed for everything. I really don't get any respect, I just get blamed. Even my grandkids, if my grandkids slip and swear, they go, Papa swears. I even got a friend of mine from Arizona, their grandson is the cutest kid ever, and he got caught on video saying some bad words. I met him 3 times, and they said, Uncle Matt, that's why he swore to me like this. So I'm not going to swear tonight, but and when we go back to about things being your fault, and obviously all this didn't come for free. I wanted to pick these dollars up. I didn't know what was going on. Pay for the wedding. But you know how these speeches go. Because I've been to a lot of weddings. And you go to a lot of weddings, people get up, and they give a speech, and you're sitting there going, Jesus, when's the bar going to reopen? Jesus Christ, hurry up. But I really don't care. So you're going to listen, because I'm paying. It's my part. All right? Okay? Good. So, to be quite honest with you, again, this is my fault. Very expensive, this is my fault. Going back about 5-6 years ago, some of my friends and I were at a restaurant in the city, sitting outside. Up comes walking this young man. And by the way, Tony, I didn't realize how light you were on your feet. Jesus Christ. Frickin' Fred Astaire. Oh, this guy can dance. You were light. You remember? No kidding. But no, I'm telling you, I was really impressed. Jesus Christ. But, excuse me, Monsignor. I didn't mean to do I don't want to, you know. But, so I'm sitting with all my buddies, and up comes this young man. It was about the same type of temperature as tonight, about 90 degrees, hot, humid. And if anybody noticed, Tony keeps on, you know, wiping his forehead because he's sweating a lot. He sweats. Sorry. He does. Big guy, football player, wrestler, wrestling coach. And that's why I never wrestled, because the first time the coach said, hey, you know, football's over, go into wrestling. I walked into the locker room, I said, I can't do this. This is like ridiculous, these things in here. But, thank God for deodorant. But the bottom line is he came up to us, and we were sitting talking, and I started talking to him, and he said, God, this guy Tony's all right. I said, you know, he's a bigger guy, he's Italian. My daughter, for some reason, she just loves Italian men. Maybe because of her father, I don't know. Sometimes I tell her, maybe you might not want to do that, but she did. And we're really happy to have it. But the bottom line was, I told him, I said, you know, my daughter would probably really like it. And I showed him a picture of my daughter at a Halloween party. I think it was in Arizona. It was on my phone, and she was in a police outfit, and she had handcuffs, and he goes, wow. That's really smart on my part, right? Again, it's really cost me a lot of, this really cost me. So then it kind of like, then the next day, there was a party at the old neighborhood Italian club in Bridgeport, and I said, look, I said, Rosie, you gotta go meet this guy. He's a really, really nice guy. She's, Dad, are you nuts? She says, why? No, I don't want to do that. I'm embarrassed that I'm going to do it. I said, okay. So to make a long story short, it all went away. She moved to Arizona, back to Arizona. She had a job, started working there. She's a realtor. She worked for a software company. And all of a sudden she said, hey, Dad, remember that guy Tony? I said, yeah. She said, well, I met him on the internet, on Facebook, you know. So the next thing that happened was she was packing up, leaving Arizona, coming back to Chicago. Here we are. So when you talk about my fault, trust me when I tell you it's my fault. I went to the bank yesterday. I went to the bank yesterday. I got $4,000 in cash. I went to the teller. She says, you know, she says, really? She says, Mr. Alive, you really enjoy that money. I said, enjoy that money. I said, with my daughters getting married. Oh my God, everybody's cheering. I'd say, oh, congratulations. And to make a long story short, I told her, I said, well, Monday, look on the overdrafts. If I check the account, I want to be money back in the account. But I have to say, this is about Rosie and Tony, what the Monsignor said. It's about them. It's about praying for their happiness. And that's what this is about. So I might have to say bird poop a couple times while I'm doing this, because I'm going to get emotional. But I wish you guys the best. Tony, I swear to God, I cannot believe I can dance. I'm still amazed. This guy's light on his feet. Can you believe this? You're amazing. You are really amazing. My shoes are velvet, and you can dance like that. My God. No wonder he's got Converse All-Stars on. But seriously, this is a special night. I want to welcome everybody. There are people that came here all the way from Italy. There's my... Thank you. I want to welcome the Feminella family. We are now united. We're together. I went to, obviously, my brothers, my family that came from afar, from New York, all over the country, my wife's family. I just want to welcome everybody. I want everybody to have a great time tonight. There was a lot of planning went into the wedding. I didn't do any of it. Pretty much, they kept me out of the picture and kind of like broke the news to me about what this would cost, what that would cost. And my daughter said, well, I'm going to save some money, so don't worry about it. And she did. I mean, you're good, Rose. You really are. But I got one thing to close with, and I know we all have friends that we have lost over the years, and cousins, relatives who we all love, who I know are here. So I'm probably going to say that bird poop stuff again. But, so tonight, you know, I tell you, I have some of you people that were at my son's wedding, and Rosanna and Nino's wedding, I told a story about one of our favorite people, my mother-in-law. So, bird poop, I got to do this. So, we would go to parties in our neighborhood. And our dear friends that live across from the Finellis, they're here from Arizona, the Stramalios. My buddy Earl. So we go to these parties. Bird poop, I got to do this one more time. So we go to the parties, and my mother-in-law would always go with us, Mary, Grandma Mary. And she'd have cocktails. I'd be drinking CC and water. She'd be drinking scotch and water. She'd be smoking, dancing, having a great, great time. The next morning, she would get up. And when she got up, she would go outside. She'd have her robe on, and she would go outside and she'd have her cup of coffee to wake up. She'd kind of stumble out there. She would look at the mountains and stare out into space. I'd come out there, I would join her. The dog was out there because we always brought the Toronto Italian bread toast, the peasant bread down there for her. She would toast it, then she'd take the crust off. And then she would make a pile and she'd be feeding our dog. So when we take the dog to the vet, he gained like 3-4 pounds, and the vet would go, Grandma's in town, right? I said, yeah, Grandma's in town. The dog would gain weight. And she would be very quiet, looking out, thinking, smoking a cigarette. When she smoked a cigarette, everybody wanted to smoke. This is a woman who could have done marketing for cigarettes, and probably everybody would still be smoking. Because you wanted to smoke when you watch this woman smoke a cigarette. I used to join her doing that too at that time, I must confess. But, you know, she would look out and she would say, all of a sudden look at me, and she'd go, you know, if somebody didn't have a good time at that party last night, it's their fault. So all I have to say is in honor of all the people that have passed before us, who the Monsignor talked about today, I want you to remember my mother-in-law. Remember what she said. If you don't have a good time at this party, and I can't tell you how much it cost me for this party, it's your fault. And I don't want to stop swearing on you when I get work. So everybody, have a great time at the party. Enjoy. I love you all. Maybe not all of you, but some of you. Thank you. Thank you very much.